Okay, we're ready to start. And Carolyn's going to introduce our guests because they're friends of hers.
Yes, this is Jessica Retcher and Amanda Bohenick. I went to college with them, both undergrad and graduate. And here we go.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jessica. I am a middle school and high school orchestra teacher. I teach 7th through 12th grade in Amityville, but I'm on maternity leave this year, so that's why I'm able to be here. So, Amanda has more experience, I would say, with the 4th graders than I do, but we also are going to give you guys a lot of different things. Everything is pretty much on your preference, what you want when you start them off. Amanda has her preference of how she starts hers off. I have my preference in my district when we develop the curriculum of how they start off. So we're going to try and give you guys both sides, give you guys as many options as you want and see what fits better for you. It's not more about, or at least I feel it's not more about the district altogether or you guys altogether, what fits. You may like this style, you may like that style better, so it's really how the teacher wants to come across and teach it. So, you want to start? I'll start. Okay. So I don't know what you guys know, what you want to get out of this. So, everyone, do you know how the proper position of hold of anything? You want to, we'll start, from very basic?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So,
if you have instruments that you want to take out, we're not going to make you play for us or anything like that, but just to kind of feel it, hold the position, get an idea for it. You're welcome to take them out. No pressure if you don't have or if you don't feel comfortable.
So your chin rest does not go on your chin like this, how most students automatically put it. You're going on an angle, so what your diagonal is. And it's going to be tilted. So your E string is going to be tilted down, your G string is going to be tilted up. Okay, and then what I tell my students is that you're holding an apple in your hand. And that is how you're doing it. Everyone is going to go like this because it's going to give you more support. What we do in our elementary school is if you need to, if the students are having problems, you take socks and we ball them up. And you can if you can fit a sock in your hand and the kid can play with the sock in your hand, that's a perfect hand position. So you want your thumb is going to face upwards and on the side. A lot of people tilt it sideways, but that's going to give you your bent wrist. So as long as your thumb is going upwards, sometimes, especially with little ones, we put a little smiley face sticker here so you remember where your thumb is going. It's going to go pretty much where your first finger is, a little bit in front of your first finger. Almost like you're gripping it. Like you're doing a pinch, that's where you're going to go. And you always play with your fingertips. A lot of kids are going to go flat fingered. And you want to make sure, especially, as music teachers, we always say, have your short nails because you are going to have to play on the tips of your fingers. That way you are not getting, if you go flat fingered, you're going to go flat. And I know that we may have different points of view on it, but I am a strong believer with little kids of finger tapes. Only because as a second grader, as far as I have seen, their ears are not developed to understand where the E is on the D string compared to the E flat. You tell them to put their finger down, you want them to pinch it. They can pinch it here, they can pinch it here, they can pinch it here. They don't know where exactly your first finger is supposed to go. So as we start in our district, we do 1, 2, 3, 4. We do the 4 finger tapes. I'll tell you which ones that we use. And then we gradually take away. Our second finger is the first one to take away. Once we distinguish between what's sharp and what's natural, they no longer need to have that second finger tape. So we take that one away. And then you're left with 1, 3, 4. Then after they understand that you have to stretch that pinky to get the 4th finger, we take that one away, so you're left with 1 and 3. And then we always leave 1 and 3 for a long time because then you start shifting. And when you start shifting, you need to know, am I going 3rd and where 1 is? So always go back home. So we leave 1 and 3. And then we take away 1 and then usually 3 because that's a home position that you can know where 1st position is, where 3rd position is, and from there you can even, when you get up to it, you can go to 5th position and so on. So we always leave Amanda uses some tapes that she has. I use, which you can get off of Amazon, car detail tape, the pinstripe tape. It comes in all different colors, so you can give it to the kids in different colors. It also doesn't leave a sticky residue when it is time to pull off. Like masking tape leaves like a nasty residue on it, and you don't want that left on. And then Amanda uses these.
I don't personally mind cutting my tapes. I find the pinstripe tape can be a little bit more expensive than just buying them already like this. You can buy this in like Staples. You can also find a pinstriping type tape in like Michael's in the art sections. And it's very easy
Because
to
it's
find.
very thin.
These I always found stay a lot longer than say masking tape, and they also again don't leave a residue on the fingerboard when you go to remove them. Okay. If you decide to go this option, you don't want to get the pinstriping tape. When you go to cut these, it's really important to keep in mind that you do not want the tapes to be really thick on the fingerboard. They need to be cut thin. The idea is that the thicker tapes that makes the students believe that they can put their finger in any of the area that that tape covers. And that's not necessarily correct. So the thinner you make the tapes, the more accurate their fingerings are going to be as you go through. Right? I've seen a lot of interesting things cut out of the tapes, and if they get a little thick, it's almost like they're on top of each other, and you kind of
Especially with the second and the third finger, when you first start off. Like if we say about the D string, between your F sharp and your G, that's really where you're going to start on a student, they are touching. So if you put two thick tapes next to each other, you're now almost at like a G sharp and an F natural. So instead of having that nice half step, you're all of a whole step. So you want to make sure that if you're using those, that you cut them really small, or you use a pinstriping tape.
Is the pinstripe tape something we can do before, like put it on, or does it have to be, some kids have small hands, right? So would we be the one, doing it to our hand, making sure
Every instrument, like if I took a half-size instrument, I'm going to know where. My fingers may look like this instead of on my instrument like this, but the F sharp and the G is going to be at the same spot on my fingers or their fingers on an instrument. So I usually take my day one of class when would be getting the instruments out, and the kids probably aren't even going to play them, and I'm going to get everything set up. I'm going to help them. I'm going to tell them, okay, I'm putting your stickers, your tapes on. This is where you're going to know where you put your fingers. We're going to put a sticker here if you want to, or Amanda uses reinforcements. You put a reinforcement here. This is where your thumb is going to go. And we talk about the instrument, and then we talk about the bow. The bow, we loosen it every single time we put it in. When we tighten the bow will arch if it's tightened too much. On a violin bow, all you want to do is enough so that your pinky finger can fit in and out. If you tighten it too much, which I don't want to tighten mine completely too much, but you see it's going to start going outwards, and it's going to arch in the opposite direction. That's when it's going to break. So you want it, and tell your students, if you go into the middle of the bow, not on the ends, because the ends are going to get thicker, in the middle of the bow, enough to stick your pinky in. And yes, your bow maybe tightens a little more than their bow, because you are going to have a little more strength than they are. So that's why it's going to be according to their pinky. Because you're going to press down more than they are. And then the last thing that we start off with, or when we're getting everything situated, they're going to complain that this hurts. That this hurts. That it's on their collarbone, and that this hurts them, and they don't want to play anymore because it's red, and they're going to give you every excuse in the possible book. So we do two options. You can take a rag, tell them to go get a bandana, a rag, a piece of cloth, put it over, so it gives them a little more cushion. You can stick a rubber band around for you see where your chin rest attaches. There's a little peg, and it can go from here to here, and you can stick so it stays in place. Or what they used to use when I started was kitchen sponges. My teacher would go to like the dollar store and get them in all different colors, and the kids thought it was so cool. Because we were like, I want a pink one, I want a purple one, I want a red one. Whatever color kitchen sponge, and you put it right here, you put the rubber band on, and you put it down here, so it sits on here. and it helps them. It's a cushion for their shoulder to their instrument. Because they will complain.
Is it going to stay or is it going to
Yeah, with the rubber band.
The rubber band keeps it in place.
The rubber band keeps it in
It's just
place. And
important.
it'll look like this.
It is important to note that a lot of the kids forget to take the sponges off before they pack up their instrument. You cannot leave it on because it's going to put a lot of pressure on the bridge, and oftentimes will snap the bridge if they just try to force the case closed. They can very easily take the sponge off, lay it on the side of the instrument on top when they go to close the case,
Lay it
and
like
it
here.
stays there.
Or
But,
if you have a case that has a pocket here, they all fit inside the pocket. You guys don't need the shoulder rest right away. So especially when you're starting on younger kids, the shoulder rest is going to hold it upwards, and they don't have this much space in here. So you'll see, you may start noticing some of your 6th graders, 7th graders that are starting to lean downward, even when they have a sponge. We've done the whole add 2 sponges to kind of keep it upwards. But when you start seeing them here and they can't keep it up, then you're going to want a shoulder rest. But for now, you don't need one for little ones.
Generally speaking, the shoulder rests, and I think you were the same thing when you went to school, we started using these in school when we were starting shifting, which is around like 7th, 8th grade. So it basically, the idea is that it holds the instrument up, it gives you a little bit more support so you can move your hand up and back on the fingerboard and not feel like you're going to drop the instrument. But something that I remember in elementary school and I did do with some of my kids is that even without this, that you have them practice
They have to
holding
be
the
able to hold their
instrument
instrument up.
without it moving. It's a little weird when they first start because it's going to slide a little bit. When they have the sponges, it kind of holds it a little bit better on their shoulder, but it's something you do want to work on because it just strengthens their neck so that down the road you can start working shifting. I mean, years, but down the road. For yourself.
But even for perfect posture, if you can hold your instrument like this, and you tell the student, can you hold it like this? And if they can hold it like this, then there's no reason why you have to have a collapsed wrist. Because they'll tell you, my wrist is holding it upwards, that's why I have to have it like this. No, if you can hold your instrument up without your hands, you can easily just put your hands here, and there's no problem.
For yourself, since you're all going to have full-sided instruments, you may find it easier to hold the instrument, play with it, if you get yourself a shoulder rest. They just make it a lot more comfortable for you. If anybody's interested when we're done, you're welcome to come up and try it out on your instrument, see how you like it. But I highly recommend it. If you're already playing on a full-size instrument, you might as well have it. It's just going to make things a lot more comfortable for you, especially if you're going to be playing for a half hour at a time with the students, or however long you want it might be.
Then once you have your student's instrument set up, they understand how they're going to hold it, they understand the concept of the bow, they're going to loosen it every single time that you put it away because you don't want any of them breaking. Yes, some of the strings, some of the hair on the bow is going to break. Please don't rip them, because if you rip them, it's going to cause some other ones to get loose inside. You always want to cut them. So you always just want to cut the hair on the bow off. So once the student is done, this is where Amanda and I have 2 different preferences. We start students in our district with pizzicato, learning the note names and learning where their fingers go on the tapes according to where the notes are on the staff. Every single book that I have seen always starts on the D string. And you use the D and the A string first on all the instruments. And we start with pizzicato. Pizzicato, the correct way to do it is you take your thumb on your right hand and you put it against your fingerboard. You don't put it against the bridge. A lot of people think that the indent here on the bridge is where it goes. It does not. It goes against the fingerboard. And you curl up your fingers, you are only using your pointer finger. That is the only finger that you're using. So you go from your fingerboard, and you use your pointer finger, and that's it. We use essential elements in our district, and it starts with pizzicato, and we get the kids pretty much for the first, at least up to Thanksgiving break, we use only strictly pizzicato in our district, getting them to understand this is my first finger, this is my second finger, this is my third finger, and reading notes on the staff. They did read notes on the staff when they did recorder, but now all of a sudden you're handing them an instrument, and at least where I am, they are something, and they all of a sudden don't remember, I don't know what note that is. Really? She's shaking her head. Very interesting place. So they all of a sudden, they will give you, at least where I am, every excuse in the book. I don't know where that note is. Okay, well, what was it on the recorder? It's the same thing. We're reading the same staff. And that's what we do. Amanda does something differently.
So I have had private students from almost every district under the sun, and I've worked in a district that had no curriculum set for their orchestra program. So this kind of left me to decide what I was most comfortable with. Personally, for if you're starting fourth graders, I prefer to skip the pizzicato and go straight to bow and playing with the bow. I typically do this because the students at that age, they're really excited to pick up an instrument, they really want to learn, and I try to take advantage of the fact that they're really excited to learn how to properly hold the bow. Because the bow grip can be a little bit tricky sometimes for most kids. All I'm doing is the same essential thing that the pizzicato starts with. We're just adding in the bow hold, and I'm spending more time bowing on open strings rather than here's E, here's F sharp, here's G. Okay, pizzicato allows you to kind of teach those note names and where to put their fingers if you're starting that route. Playing with the bow or arco is going to allow you to focus more on their bow control and just where the bow needs to be placed on the instrument, just playing open strings. In the past have taught, fifth graders, first year students, and I still manage to get them through the same curriculum that most kids who are starting with pizzicato get through.
This is what we're saying is a total personal preference on what you want to do.
It's what you're personally comfortable with and how you feel. What you're gonna get accomplished most with these students. So if you have a group of 10 kids, you may want to do pizzicato with them rather than bow.
And they're going to play quicker when they do pizzicato because you're going to teach them F sharp, E, D. Oh, can you do that? F sharp, E, D, F sharp, E, D. Well, now you can play half cross buns. You got that. And they're, I can play half cross buns. Then go home, mommy, listen. And it's like a whole great. And then by Thanksgiving, that's usually when we incorporate the bow. Now the bow hold is a specific bow hold. For little kids, we try to come up with little things for them. So if you hold the bow in your left hand, your thumb is going underneath. That's the first one. Then I tell them that they're going to put down the two little bunny ears. A llama. So now you're making a little, kind of like a little animal. Your pointer finger does not go down with it. Your pointer finger is going to kind of lay on its side a little bit. That's going to help you keep this way. If you put it like here, it's going to give you a hard time bowing correctly. So you want to kind of lay down your pinky, and then your pinky comes here. Some kids, and you'll notice when they get, I do it too, if you're holding a long note, my pinky flies in the air. That's quite all right, it's going to happen. But your main structure is between these. The pinky just kind of sits on the end.
It is important to kind of note that the pinky, specifically for violin and viola, does not wrap around the sides of the bow, it's on top. The reason why it's like this is it's for support, specifically when you're playing faster notes. So this is not something that beginners are necessarily going to need it for, but this is something you have to reinforce with them. Because if they get used to this, trying to break this habit is really hard.
And if you look, our hands are facing inwards towards the bow. It's going to give you more support in pulling the bow, and it's going to help it stay straight. If you put your hands this way, I can't really do, I want to fling my bow this way. So now when I play, my bow is going to travel up and down. You don't want your bow to travel, you want to have more control, so you're going to face it inwards. Your whole hand is going to face inwards towards the bow. And when I start, when we have this, you can do easy wall exercises. This part of your arm needs to stay straight. So if you have the kid going up against the wall, your elbow now is not moving. This is the concept that you want them to get. You don't want it flying this way. So if you keep something here, and then you just pull, that's the idea. And when you do use the bow, we call it the sound spot. is in between the bridge and the fingerboard. And you can tell the kids, if your fingerboard's starting to get white from all the rosin, you're not playing in the correct spot. And if they get too close to the bridge, you're going to get that squeaky, give me chills kind of chalkboard sound. So you want it right in between. And we just bow. And it's at the sound point, so it's going to give you that nice sound. If you get up here, it's a little more muffled. And it's harder to switch strings because they are closer, you're going to hit more strings. Because the strings do go inwards. And if you're too close here, you get that, I just got goosebumps, that whole cheese sound. And they're going to want to play on this side of the bridge because it gives you that Halloween thing. And we let the kids play it during Halloween and they have a grand old time. But right in between, you don't want the rosin here, and you don't want the rosin here. So you want it right in between and to make sure that your hand is facing inward. Yeah.
With the bow, you don't want them to have like a death grip on it, so you're pretty like.
They're gonna go like this.
And the pinky's not gonna be like so stressed.
Just relax. We do bow exercises too. To help them with the strength, you can do like we call these TikToks to get their loosened up and to understand holding the bow that they don't have to hold it on so tight. We do spiders where we have them crawl up and then we have them crawl down to understand where that their thumb has to be on this side but that their fingers have to be on this side. So you can have the kids go and like the first couple of times you use the bow, you do TikToks, you do spiders, anything to kind of just help them understand.
Almost every single student I've ever taught, regardless whether it was on cello bass or violin viola, when you first do their bow hole, they almost all try to like death grip it because they feel like they're going to drop it. So I use a lot of those exercises just to kind of show them you can go back and forth, the bow's not going anywhere. It doesn't feel quite comfortable the first time. They're going to say it feels a little weird. You have to tell them, you have to trust me. Let's try this. I call them windshield wipers, but you know, same concept. You're not having them go back as fast as possible because we don't need the boat flying. These things break very easily, but you do very slowly. Just have them do that. I remember very clearly, and I do it with my students, are the spiders. I did this in elementary school, and my teacher in elementary school actually made it a little bit of a race. As we got better at it, she would be, okay, who can go up and back, the fastest. And it became, we didn't get anything for it, but it became the thing to do at the end of lessons. But if the students are not quite feeling comfortable with it, correct their bow hold if they're death gripping it, which you'll probably see a lot of this when you're first teaching it. Have them relax, tell them, trust me, and then once they're all here, go back and forth. Just try this. Say, listen, they're not going anywhere, does it feel like you're going to drop it? And they'll probably say, no, now I kind of get what you're saying. When I first teach bow grip, I make them do it a few times in a row. So I literally say to them, okay, so we're going to do this, put it between the grip, both instruments. There's a small space between the grip here and the frog. I use that as my spot for their thumb. It just gives them a visual and something to feel for. And then the same thing, just, you make Bunny or the llama, and then let's put our fingers down, pinky on top. Okay, and then I'll have them put the bow down. Okay, let's try that again. And then I'll ask them, okay, where does your thumb have to go? And they'll describe to me in between these 2 points. And then what do we do next? We make the bunny or the llama, and then we put our fingers down. They do it a few times, they get it pretty quickly. And you have them go home, you say, okay, practice this. If they forget their instruments, you can even say, you can practice it on a pencil or a pen at home. It's the same concept, okay? Thumb underneath, fingers on top, you do that. Okay, so if they're watching TV, they can easily practice how to hold the bow. Okay, big thing is just like Jessica said, you can practice bowing up against the wall or door frame just to keep this upper part of your arm straight. I have a lot of students when they first start, they do this whole thing as they bow, and I call it the chicken wing. And they laugh, and that's the whole point. I want them to have fun with it. But I say we don't want a chicken wing, we want a straight. And sometimes I'll stand behind them and I'll just put my hand behind their elbow, just to kind of keep it very
Notice
lightly.
what Amanda does at her wrist. When she goes out, her wrist bends outwards, inwards, and then when she comes in. I tell the kids sometimes that they have to get their wrist to their nose, just so they understand the concept that it's coming from your wrist, it's not coming from your shoulder. So you want your elbow in your wrist, not your elbow in your shoulder.
So when you bow, you're going to make, essentially you're making 3 different shapes as you're bowing. So when I have my bow all the way up near the frog, my arm should be making a small triangle. When I pull out to the middle of the bow, it should be more of a square, and then all the way out is a big triangle. Okay? The biggest thing you're going to find is students do not want to move their wrist. So oftentimes I'll have them put their bow down and I'll say, okay, spaghetti wrist. And I have them do this just a little bit. And I say, okay, let's try it again. That is one of the hardest things you're going to find students do not like. For some reason, and a lot of it has to do with that death grip that they have, it's a lot harder. Once they start to relax, you see, they do it. If they don't loosen their wrist, what happens? You get chicken wings, you get the bow over the fingerboard, you get the bow close to the bridge, and you're not getting that optimal sound.
I noticed in your grip with yours, you hold yours more up front, and yours is farther back on the black, like by the circle. Does it matter? Like
More, no, of like a personal preference to when you go. And you want them, as long as they are in front.
Okay.
I have a very relaxed bow grip. Very. I've gotten in trouble. So, I have a very relaxed.
I get in trouble with them. That's my usual thing. But yeah, the big thing here is knowing that on violin and viola bow grips, its index finger needs to be on top. It's a little bit forward and turned, and pinky needs to be on top. In terms of the 2 middle, they can be a little bit forward, they can be a little bit back towards the top of it. This is going to really be personal preference. The students, generally speaking, they're going to find where they're comfortable here. But this is, you want this on top, this in front. Those are going to be what's going to give them stability with the bow. Otherwise, you get bouncy bow issues.
Rosin. Every little kid loves rosin and thinks that their bow needs to be white like a snowman. Your bow doesn't necessarily need to be bleached white. I tell my kids that they have to count to 10. Because they will sit there and they will go like this. And I say long strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're done. Otherwise, they will start playing and there will be a cloud of rosin in your face. When you get it, especially you guys getting new instruments, your rosin is going to be beautiful. It's going to be flat. It's going to be gorgeous. If you take a key, or sometimes people do the bottoms of their bows and they scratch them because that's going to help, you're now going to crack your rosin. You crack it, it's going to crumble, the kids are going to get rosin pieces all over, it's going to get in their instruments, it's going to get all over the floor, and you're going to go through rosin a lot quicker. Take the frog of your bow and literally stand there for probably 2 minutes, tell them, and just go like this. You want to get an indent. And if you see, like mine has a huge indent now in the middle, so now I can go like this. Don't crack it. You guys will go through rosin like once a month. The kid's going to come up to you and say that they need new rosin because it's just going to crumble and fall apart. And you want to keep it as low as possible. So just kind of just keep going little bit just to get that groove started. And once you get that groove started, I tell them 10. So it's up and down 5 times.
Generally speaking, I have students who will ask me, how often should I rosin? I say to them, if you're practicing 4 days a week, you maybe only need to rosin, and it depends on the length of time they're sitting, but younger kids, it's maybe 15-20 minutes at a time at most. They maybe only need to rosin once when they come to lessons or rehearsal with me, and then once when they go home and they practice, and that's it. I will tell them this until, my face turns blue, and they still go home and they rosin it like crazy. And there have been times where I will very lightly, right near the frog, just pull across the string just to knock off some of the extra rosin, because it just kind of, as they play, it's just like a plume of smoke on the instrument, and it just cakes onto the string, cakes onto the instrument, and younger kids are not very good about cleaning their instruments and keeping everything looking nice. So you want to just make sure every time you sit down with them, okay, we're going to do quick rosin, okay, we're good, that's it. You should only be rosining one more time during the course of the week. If they feel like they need more, it should only be because when they go to play the string, it's getting very squeaky, or they're not getting a lot of sound. Right? That's the only time they really need to put more rosin on. But they should, at a young age, not have to do it more than twice a week. That's it.
And it is a really good idea that they do get some kind of a course or something, so when they are done, they're going to have rosin everywhere. To keep your strings longer, you want to wipe them down. It will annoy you to hear the sound, but it is good to pinch the string and wipe up and down with it pinched. It's going to go ee, yeah, you're going to hear it, but you're going to get all of the sound. You're going to get all, especially underneath. If they're playing correctly, all of your rosin is going on the strings and is going underneath. And you want to keep, obviously, your instruments as long as possible in good condition. So it is good to tell the kids to wipe down your instrument before you put it away. And always loosen your bow, put it away, snap your keys. Make sure that, she said, the sponges aren't on. You can leave the rubber bands on. We leave the rubber bands on all the time. So you can just slip the sponge in and out, depending on your case. Everything's going to fit differently. If you have a case that has a little compartment, you can put the sponges in there. Always keep rosin inside a compartment because you don't want the rosin to scratch up your instrument if it's floating around in your case. Or once you put your instrument down, you can find a spot, usually right over by the F-hole, where you can put the sponge down or the cloth down, and it's not going to, you don't want to put anything on top of your strings or on your bridge. And that's like primary how to hold and play instrument, yeah.
Should the bow be directly straight on the strings? Should it be on an angle? The hairs in the string exactly?
You want to put the bow as flat on the string as possible. The more hair you have on the string, the more sound you're going to get. There are people who will say if you want, and this is really more advanced playing, if you want like really, really like pianissimo sound, you'll have some directors will tell you turn the bow forward a little bit so you have less hair on the string. But when you go to teach them, hair flat on the string, and you want as much hair on that string as possible so that you get as much sound.
Do you do like an exercise so they feel the grip? There's a lot of them will just like barely touch it. Or you want to have
Well,
them
I ask them to pull, and I want to hear how loud they can go. I want them to fill up the space, and I tell them how loud. And sometimes we do like comparison, like you play, and now you play. Who was louder? So who was using more, or who had a better grip? Or we kind of like go back and forth and ask the kids. But you want them, and you'll see if you notice. And I tell the kids to find their loud spot and their sound spot. That's my sound spot. You hear how I'm getting quieter? I'm not changing my grip, and it's getting squeaky. So you play around with it, and you tell the kids, do you hear it? When you go this way. Now, where's your perfect spot? Try to sit there. And we've done like the whole, with your phone, can you hold it in that spot for 10 seconds? Can you hold it in that spot for 15 seconds? And how long can you hold it perfectly in that spot? And my coworker has done like charts. Like she's gone up 10, 20, and I think like 30 seconds. And they get like a sticker if they can hit and just play on the string, pulling it perfectly with your bow in the sound spot for that long. And you have a chart, and they're like, oh my god, I can do it. And then once you reach 30 seconds, it's like, wow, you've mastered your bow grip and how to bow on the string correctly. It's all like little things. Does anyone have questions on how to hold or? Yeah.
The kids' fingers start hurting when they press the string down.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you can do about that? Like,
They could be pressing it down like way too hard.
or,
Nothing needs to be, you don't need to make your finger red. Like if you push down too hard, you see how like the tip of my finger is turning red? It doesn't need to be like that. The strings are meant that you just can lightly place your fingers down.
There's nothing else like you can put on your fingers or like stickers or anything like that.
Not on your fingers, no.
Really what you're doing, when they first start playing on the strings, it's going to hurt a little bit. You don't want it to be like, ow, this is really painful. They're going to get little indents on their fingers, okay? And what I'll use...
It's kind of like when they play, like clarinet or something, right? And their fingers go over the keys that have the holes. They're going to have like little holes in their fingers, and you have, like, you show that. They're going to have like a little line on the the tips of their fingers, but then I tell them, wow, you got it on the tip of your finger, that means you played it on the tip, you played it correctly. And all of a sudden, if you turn it around like that, they're like, I did it right. I'm like, you did it right, because it's not here.
Usually what I tell beginner students, and you can see, I can press down on these, and I still have indents on my fingers. I don't actually feel it anymore. You, as a string player, build up calluses on your fingertips. They're not like these gross, really rough ones. That's what I always tell the students. So, like, if you looked at my fingers, you wouldn't know that I had calluses there. But I can play for long periods of time. My fingers do not hurt. But I can press down, and I still get these indents. They're going to get them. There's really nothing you can do about it. However, for beginner students, what you tell them is if your fingers are starting to hurt when you practice, put the instrument down, take a 5-10 minute break, come back to it. It gets easier. After about 2 or 3 lessons, they're no longer complaining anymore. So the first few times you do, okay, let's add first and second finger, they might complain, oh, that really kind of bothers me. Take a break in the lesson, let them rest their fingers for a second, then you go back to it. You don't want to do long periods of time because if they really start to hurt, they're never going to want to practice the instrument. So you just do little spurts. After a few lessons, they never complain about it. I always tell my students, just be patient. In a couple of weeks, it's not even going to bother you. And I always bring it up to them a couple of weeks later and say, oh, now that we can play, do your fingers bother you anymore? And they're like, no, they don't. So it is going to happen, and you guys may see this as you're practicing. If you're going home and you're taking the instrument, you want to play around with it, you may feel that also. Kind of get an idea of how long can I go for. It's not excruciating pain. You never at any point want to make them play through it. But if they start saying, oh, my fingers are hurting a little bit, you'll know in lessons they'll put their hand down or they'll rest for a second and say, okay, your finger's bothering you. Just take a second to take a break. But after a few, it no longer bothers them. It's the bigger instruments takes them a little bit longer. So like bass, they really have to build up some calluses and strengthen their fingers for them to work past that. So myself, if I were playing bass, I can only go for so long before my fingers start to bother me. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do. It's just taking those breaks. It's really key. You don't want to discourage them, make them feel like you have to play in pain. That's not the point.
So as far as like your students coming to you for the first time, and they're going to hand in the instrument, you're going to physically put it on them first? Are they going to sit, stand? Like if I'm a student and I'm like, you're giving me the violin, are you
Definitely
going to put
with
it on
little
me?
kids, you're going to want to have them sit. You're going to want to teach them how to take it out of the case. So when your first day when you come in and they chose the violin, they're going to be sitting down. You're going to have the case on the floor. Don't ever have them have their case on their lap because it's going to fall. So they're going to have it, you're going to open it up. I wouldn't, me personally, I'm not taking the bow out. I'm just taking out the instrument. And I'm having them lay it on their lap. Usually the neck is on their left-hand side. And we talk about this is how you hold your instrument when you're waiting, or you hold it on your knee like this. This is rest position. The instrument never goes on the floor. If it's not in your case and it's on you, it's either flat, with your hands on it, or you're in rest position on your knee. We talk about posture and sitting. Your back is never on the back of the chair, which gives kids a hard time, and your feet are always flat. And this is what you're going to say. When I start with them, I would start with where to hold it. Now, it's up to you if you're going to put a cloth underneath or something because they're going to complain and you want to put something there, that's fine. And you want to just start with,
So
can you
you're the
hold
one
it?
putting it.
And they're going to be like, oh my God. I always bring my violin and I demonstrate with them because they're going to find what's comfortable to them. Some students may have it tilted more, some students may not. I always show them. Now, can you hold it? And as you can see, I have a hard time holding it. So, can you hold it? Yes, you can hold it? Okay, that's great. Now we can hold our instrument. Now, after that, I get their fingerboard ready. I let them either pick a smiley face, a color. I usually let them pick a colored smiley face sticker. Okay, and I put it down. Now that's where I want you to put your thumb. So can you just sit there with it right now and hold your thumb there? This is thumb position. This is where I want you to hold your thumb. Your thumb always stays whole. And we sit there. And then after that, I may only add one tape at a time for the whole group. Because if you're doing it in small groups. So you may only want to add the first and the second finger tape the first day. Just depending how many students you have. Because it's going to take you a little bit of time to get the tapes on. And you don't want them to be sitting there like I'm bored out of my mind. So once you have the thumb, I may add the first and the second finger tape. And I say, this is where your first finger always goes.
And this is where your second finger always goes. Now, can you put it back up again? And they have it up. Can you put your thumb where it's supposed to go? Can you put your first finger on the first finger tape? Leave all your fingers up. Do you see this? And they're going to go like this. Now, look at your wrist. Look at my wrist compared to your wrist. What's different? And we start talking. The earlier you talk to them about keeping their wrist open, the bigger success you're going to have with them keeping their wrist open. And then we play a game. Can you do 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2? Can you lift all fingers up? Okay, and I just yell out numbers, and they may just go and put their fingers around on numbers. Once you have and you add the third finger tape, you don't need the fourth finger tape right away. So you may only want to add 1, 2, 3 right away. Then I talk about here and here. Keep your thumb here, all your fingers up. Now just pluck a string. And they're going to fumble around. Can you pluck string? Yay, we can go. The first 2 times, I may not even take out a lesson book. Just getting the kids used to taking their instruments out, because it's going to take them a while, holding it up, and getting your hand posture. Once that happens, maybe the third lesson is when I'll bring out a book. And let's start. This is open D. And here you go from there.
What's the size of the violin? Just starting with little kids.
Little
their hand
ones
might not be
normally
able
are going to do a half size to a 3/4 size. How you can always tell is you stick your hand out. Obviously for us, because whole sizes are the longest it's going to get, so our wrists are going to come above and wrap. For a little kid, you're at a good size. For a little kid, theirs isn't going to reach here, so they're going to be like this, so they can't reach it for a full size. You want to extend it. If the scroll can go onto my wrist, I need the next size.
I've often found a good indicator that a student needs to go up to the next size is if their fingers are no longer landing on the tapes where they normally would be.
If they're
As their
flat
hand,
more.
if their hand starts to outgrow the instrument, they're going to start making more spacing between the fingers. At that point, usually I will tell the student, okay, why don't we stop for a second? I'll have them reach around the scroll. And if they can bend their arm, that's usually a good indicator that they're ready for the next size. If their arm is straight and they really can't bend it a whole lot, they can still stick with this size, and it's just a matter of adjusting their fingers as they go. I do want to mention, because the way she starts, because she starts with pizzicato, so if you go with that option, starting with the fingers is a great option. Because I start with bowing first with my lessons, if you decide to go that route, I just want to show you a good way to kind of introduce that all to them. And I don't actually have them put their hand on the neck of the instrument the first lesson or 2. I have them hold at the top of the instrument. This is a great way to kind of get them used to putting the instrument up without smacking themselves in the face. They're going to do it. But holding it here gives them a little bit more support. They feel like they really got something in their hand. I just have them, okay, put it up here. And, I have them all sitting down. I will demonstrate on my instrument. You always want to make sure you tell them it's almost like a shoulder pad. Should never be up here, should never be down there. And you kind of want to be able to see, if I'm looking straight, I can kind of see out of the corner of my eye the fingerboard going down. And what I'll do is I'll walk around and I'll adjust them. So if I need to move the instrument this way, but I have them stay the way they are. Okay, I'm going to do that a few times. If I'm introducing the bow, I keep my hand here because all I'm doing is open strings. So rather than having the distraction of all this, give their hand something to do, and then we just pull across the strings that way. Again, this is up to you, what you're most comfortable with. Some people like to do the pizzicato because you can introduce the notes right away. If you want to try to do the bowing first, which can be difficult at times, you want to do it so that you're playing right away, right on the open string. Give their hands something to do because if they got nowhere to put these fingers, they just kind of fall down after a little while.
Young kids, for sizing, usually 2nd, 3rd, sometimes even 4th grade, you're going to use a half-size violin. When you get up to some of the taller 4th, 5th, 6th graders, you're going to use a 3/4, and usually in middle school, sometimes in the end of 6th grade, and then middle school, that's usually when, you'll have your little peanuts who are still not going to use it, but usually that's when you go on full-size instrument. A full-size instrument for a 2nd grader, unless they're a giant, is going to be way too big, and when you're too big, then your hands are here, and you're going to use the size of your fingers, you're not going to be able to get your tips or your fingers onto it. But you'll see when they go, they look like completely awkward, and okay, let's try this one. It's really about trial and error at first. I can't tell you that all 2nd graders are going to use half size, because every kid is different. But I don't think you'll see a full-size instrument on a 2nd grader, 3rd grader.
you find them a lot when they first get it. You have to say like, careful with the pegs, don't tighten them, don't
I tell them
loosen
that this is me.
touch any screws.
This is me. You don't touch unless you're a teacher. You don't touch this. If it's, and I even tell them, tell mommies and daddies, they don't touch this because they will go home, especially the first couple of days, take their instruments home until they're settled and they're really stuck. They're gonna go out of tune, and they're gonna go, Daddy, my instrument's out of tune, my string is wobbly, and Daddy's gonna go, and Daddy's gonna turn it, and now you have a pop string. So I tell them, mommies, daddies, no one except for Miss Retcher can touch this. This is only Miss Retcher. And usually, I mean, you have your kids who are rebels and who are gonna do it, and don't listen to a word that you say, but normally the kids, the majority of them are okay.
What about the fine tuning, the little screws? They're all
Once you get these stuck and these really good, you guys are going to usually use the fine tuner to tune all the instruments. Because but this is going to take some time. And it's going to take you, especially when you first start them, they're going out of tune a lot. They've been in their cases when I get back to school in September, I try to tune them before the kids get there. Because then I know 2 periods later when they're walking in, they're going to be out of tune, they're going to slip. The humidity in the building is not going to help. Sometimes even the humidity in the building is going to make them so you can't tune them. I take a piece of cloth and I put it over, and I take a wrench, pliers. Take a cloth, take pliers, and loosen them. Don't ever use the pliers to tighten them. Use the pliers only to loosen them. And once the string is completely loose, then you just line it up in the bridge. There's a little hole in the bridge, and then I just go and I tighten it ever so gently to get it. If it's slipping, you can always use pencil lead. You pull out the peg a little bit to where it's supposed to be, and you just color on it with pencil, and then you screw it back in. That'll help it stick a little more. You use that in the colder months. Right now, when you get back with the humidity, everything is going to be expanding on these instruments, and it's going to make it difficult. You will probably get a lot of pop strings. That's why I tell the kids not to do them, because you'd rather have the string pop in your face than in a kid's face. But they're going to go out of tune a lot, especially then after breaks. I've come back from Christmas break for being off for a week and a half or 2 weeks, and you just take the instruments out and they're like, excuse me, and all the strings are just hanging.
Do we have to put anything on the pegs, like peg dope or anything? These are going to be new instruments. Do we need to
You
get
shouldn't. You'll see. You shouldn't have to put them on right away. But the pencil lead is the best little kept secret.
Well, that's a good one if you don't have the stuff to use it. And then I usually have a pair of pliers and a cloth just in case for the pegs, but I actually just recently came across these little things, and it's probably the best little invention I have ever come across for strings. It's called a peg pal. And then if for violin, viola, and cello, if you have the stuffed pegs, this just fits right on the peg, and it gives you a little bit more leverage. So this way you don't take the chance of indenting or damaging the pegs with the wrench. I've used the wrench for a long time. I've almost never had an issue with it, but I thought this was a pretty cool thing to try out. And they're relatively inexpensive, but since you already probably have some sort of repair kit that you carry with you for the band instruments, you probably have a wrench in there somewhere. I would strongly recommend have that, but make sure you have a cloth. We just need to put the cloth over it, otherwise you end up cracking and breaking the pegs as you go to start them.
How about starting first graders? How different is it going to be than fourth graders?
The pacing is a lot slower. So you have a fourth
And
grader.
holding the instruments will be a lot more difficult with them being that young.
You basically, if you have a fourth grade group, you can generally lesson to lesson do fewer things, depending on the person. Things take a little bit longer, but most kids you'll find each lesson you get to, you can learn something new. With the younger students, it takes a little bit longer for it to kind of stick with them. So you may have to repeat a lesson and only add just a tiny little bit of new information going into the next one.
I would probably, with someone in first and second grade, maybe not start with a bow yet. If you're you're starting students who are in 5th, 6th grade and you want to start with the bow, I think that that would be totally fine. But someone in 1st or 2nd grade, I don't think I would start with the bow. Their hands, just like developing whatever.
Myself, young ho, I need to teach with the bow right away with the younger students. I mean, before 3rd grade, I would never start them with the bow right away. I'd start them with pizzicato. You're going to hold their interest a little bit longer that way because they'll actually be able to learn the song. 3rd and 4th grade, because you're going to move through the lessons a little bit quicker, starting with the bow is not always a bad option. You'll get to learning the notes on the strings.
But do you have them play with the bow for the end of the year, the first couple of years?
Yeah, you can have them play the bow. Someone like that, I may not introduce the bow though until after the Christmas break. If I was starting 4th, 5th grade, 3rd grade even, I would start me personally with pizzicato and then not introduce. In our district, we don't have beginners playing in the winter concert. That's in our district. They only play in the spring concert. So I would start with them on pizzicato, understanding for now just the D string and the A string, knowing where the notes are, and then after Thanksgiving break, we start with the bow. And then that way when they come back after Christmas break, that's when we start with their orchestra music. And you start learning, getting ready for the concert. But someone like that, you can do, there are pieces that are all just pizzicato, if you want to do something like that. But with 1st and 2nd graders, I probably wouldn't introduce the bow until after the Christmas break, and then maybe you do 2 pizzicato pieces in your concert and 1 with the bow, depending how they're handling it. And it is going to be difficult for them with this and this. Yeah.
So for us, being that we're going to probably have a lot of younger kids and they only have it once a week, probably better to introduce the D and the A string pizzicato, maybe even without the book. But I know a lot of the string books do start on the open strings.
A lot of the string books will start with learning D string and A string. We use essential elements in our district. Amanda likes strictly strings. Both of them are going to start with just the D string and the A string, and you're only going to know in the beginning the first 3 fingers on the D string and the first 3 fingers on the A string. And it's going to go back and forth between those. I know in essential elements, not until you get to page around 26 do they start introducing the G string notes. And then after that they do the E string.
Essential Elements 2000.
Essential Elements 2000. So that around page 26 is not when we start with G string notes. So usually for your first concert, everything is primarily, they have the D string march, the D scale march. There's all like little pieces that are just going to be D string and A string. And that's really, I get some kids in 7th grade who have no idea what the G string notes, and some years the teacher before me will be like, we didn't even play on the G string because this group just had such a difficult time that I wanted them to do that. So then I take them, and 7th grade will be the first time that they're playing, which will be their 3rd year playing, and it's the first time they're playing on the G string. But they do, Essential Elements 2000 will do D string and A string, and then it'll incorporate 8th notes, then it'll incorporate half notes, and then after they've incorporated quarters, 8ths, halves, and wholes, then they jump to learning a new string. So they make you maximize as much as you can know on those 2 strings with some different rhythms, and then they add another string in. And there you'll find that there's some books or music that will coordinate with the book that you're using. And you can also, in a couple of these books, they have pages that we use them as songs for our 4th grade concert. Whether it's in a duet form, or they're all playing unison, or playing it around, we use some of the songs in the books for concerts too.
Just to kind of keep in mind, if you're looking at, and I know you guys have younger students, but as a reference, if you're looking at a 4th grade group just starting for the first year, by the end of the school year, that's a once a week lesson, and maybe you're seeing them once a week for rehearsal. They should be able to read and play all the notes on the D string and the A string. They might know 2 scales, the D and the G scale, so even though you may not have introduced them reading the G string notes on the staff, they should know a 2nd scale by the end of the year. So the younger students, it's going to be, walked back just a little bit. So you might finish the first year, you might get them started reading a D scale, depending on how quickly you go through the lessons. But they take a lot longer. I've taught students as young as 4 years old, and it takes quite a bit of time for things to just have to have the patience to sort of not push along. Older kids you can push along a little bit quicker, but just as a reference, beginner players at 4th grade by the end of the year should at least know 2 scales and all of the D and the A string notes. I mean, you can go a little bit ahead of that, or you can be a little bit behind that. It depends on the group.
You mean just in the first position, D, E, F, G?
Yeah, they don't, I mean, I get 7th graders who play for 3 years, and maybe 4 or 5 of them know how to shift. I primarily would hit the middle school after your 3rd year or so of playing. That's when you go into shifting.
Does some of these fingers, do you ever talk about them being symmetrical, or is that more for like fretted instruments? Like the D scale works perfectly because, you know, you're going to have first, second, you have the same finger on 2 strings.
Right.
For the D scale.
Right, and that's why we tell violins, they can play the D scale. Guess what? Now start on the G string. Where are you going to finish? Now you're going to play the G scale. Now start on the A string, and you're going to finish on what string? Oh, you're going to finish on the E string. Now they know 3 scales. You know the G scale, the D scale, and the A scale. I do that with my kids even for NISMA, because then when you start with the flat, oh, guess what? If you use this exact same finger pattern, now start on the G string. Now start on the A string. What scale would that be? Because where did you start? And they're like, crap, I know 6 scales. I'm like, see, you're a genius. You know 6 scales. But yeah, we do a lot of patterns.
In these methods that you use, are there like ear training parts? Like, because it's not like a trumpet, you can pretty much put down and it's in tune pretty much, but, you know.
I know both Strictly Strings and Essential Elements have the first couple of pages in the book focused primarily on rote and reading just the name, and all you're doing is introducing where your finger goes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not actually reading on staff. I personally, I just skip past it because I want them reading as soon as possible, because getting them used to reading without the note names, when they've been reading with the note names, it's sometimes a fight with them. They like to fight with you about it.
I'll tell my kids, okay, now put your first finger, don't put it on the first finger tape, put it on the second finger tape. Does that sound what a first finger should sound like? And they go, no. I go, so where should your first finger go? Okay, now does that sound what the first finger should sound like? Now put 2 fingers down. Does that sound what the second finger should sound like? So, like, we do, like, little games like that. But they can. If you don't go on the tape and you go back and now put your finger all the way back, does that sound what a first finger should sound like?
Can you just play that and see what it's sort of...
The difference between...
Yeah, like...
So your first finger, if I was playing on the D scale, playing an E. But now if I wasn't playing on my tape and I was playing back here, that's my E flat. But if I took my first finger and played it where that sharp should go, that's, you know, just get the kids to play around. It also helps them loosen up their hands. So if you ask them to just go, if they had a desk grip and they were putting their fingers down as hard as they could, they're not going to be able to move it around. And it gets them comfortable. So like little games that you'll find that'll help them also.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that is actually excellent for introducing shifting and what the positions are. I often have students have a hard time when we first start learning like 3rd position. Why is it called 3rd position? And when we move our fingers around, it's very easy for me to say, okay, well, where would your 3rd finger normally go? Here it is. Now I'm going to just move my first finger there, and there's my 3rd position. This is where my 3rd finger would normally be. That's why it's 3rd. Same thing with 2nd. 2. Okay, now we put my first finger there, 2nd position. So you may not actually go fully into them, but they get the idea of why and where they need to be. I often use that as my, like, this is how we move ourselves around, and why they're called positions that they're called.
You guys have any questions? I feel like we bombarded you with like, so much information.
If we're dealing with mixed, now that's another thing for our service that might be different is we might be dealing with mixed grades in a small group.
They're all going to be beginners.
Right, I understand. What I would do, I mean, think of it like if I'm going to do recorder or something, really just have them do the book, spelling the notes out and everything. Well, I mean, I'm sure they're going to get antsy and want to play, but that's what I like what you were saying.
They're going to get antsy and they're going to want to play. Whether it's that they want to pizzicato because they want to hear a sound, or whether it's because they want to use the bow. They're going to get antsy and want to play. So that's why I only spend like 1 or 2 lessons, depending on the size of the group, with going over the proper like holds and everything, and I try to jump into the book as fast as I can, getting them, and that's why I do pizzicato first, because it gets them to play. And by the end of the month, they know how to play hot cross buns. Oh my gosh, you've only played the instrument for 3 weeks and you know how to play hot cross buns? So that's me personally. But if you have different things, different grade levels, you may be able to start some on a bow and some pizzicato and be like, okay, this is really cool, let's see how this sounds. And then playing the music different. And can you keep it together? Can you still play unison even though you're pizzicatoing and you're arco?
Do you find more rote songs, or are you teaching like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 notes, quarter notes that you start?
When I start,
I
I'm
mean, you're not
doing all quarter notes. Beginners are really in the beginning, all quarter notes, half notes, and maybe some lead notes, but that's not hitting the fills yet. I like the kids to know, I like them to know where the notes are on the staff and where they are equivalent from the staff, how you can convert them to the instrument. So if I can get a kid, especially like we get kids from recorder, who play recorder, they can read the D, E, F, G on the staff. Can you read that on the staff? Okay, now I'm going to tell you, here's the D, here's the E, here's the F sharp, here's the G. So I like to, get them reading and playing a lot quicker.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I jump straight into reading notes on staff. I don't, typically in the books, because they have that beginning part where it's all in rote and they just write the note names, and I just skip over it.
Which may be better for little kids. It may be better the rote. You'll find maybe if you're doing first or second grade, the rote may be better because they haven't had any experience really reading or playing recorder. I don't know when you guys start recorder. We used to do it in 3rd grade in our district. So that's why I usually jump right onto the staff. We do like a little recorder review and we jump right onto the staff. So you guys, if they haven't played yet and you're starting them in 1st or 2nd grade, the rote way, but as long as you're showing that the D is here and the G is here, it's higher, that may be a better way for you guys to start them.
What I've done in the past with my younger groups is, because they want to write in all the note names because they find it a lot easier. When you start to learn, here's a D, here's a D, and here's a D, it's a little hard when they just write D in. So what I've done in the past is I made like little cheat sheets for them that they can leave in their folders if they're not sure when they go home. It has the note names underneath, but it also gives them the finger number on top. So they're able to read the note, but also know exactly how many fingers it will take to play that and what string. I've made them for every single instrument. Most students, after a few weeks, kind of get them really easily. You have some kids who it's going to take them a little bit longer, depends. I had students my first year, only like 1 or 2 students that were still using these. But what I try to do is read the note names out first before we actually play them. And I always find that actually helps a little bit because they're hearing the actual note name. So on the same idea of them reading D, E, F sharp, and then it kind of sticks with them a little bit better. But these are always kind of don't want to let them rely on this so much. You want to work them away from this, but it's a good way to start. So it's when we go home and practice, they know exactly what the notes are, especially since you're not going to be there to tell them, okay, you play, G open string on the cello, or we're going to play G 4th finger or 3rd finger on the cello, and then they can find the note here.
I'm totally fine with giving you guys my email address if you want to ask questions when you start, like what the hell am I getting myself into? I have no problem. You guys have, email me anytime, let me know if you have any questions. If you need quick materials, I'm in Amityville, so I can, try and scan some stuff into you, or, make you guys go have you visit Carolyn, I can drop stuff off to her, anything that you guys need to get started.
Did you do the belly button thing? I remember at school they're like, point your elbow towards your belly button.
I don't do that.
And that causes like a lot of
because I think that if you're going in towards your belly button, now you're curling your wrist.
Yeah.
So if you're up, your wrist is open. I do use socks and then I threaten them. And I'm like, guys, Mike goes to the gym every night and comes home and smells his socks are sweaty. You want to hold his sweaty socks in your hands? I have absolutely no problem putting them up in your hands. And they're all like, I don't want his sweaty socks. I'm like, well, then open up your wrist and you won't get his sweaty socks. So, that definitely does help. Threaten them. I tell them I can put a tack back here so every single time that you go there, you're going to poke yourself. And very difficult district, so threatening.
They make all kinds of.
What do you do if they don't practice?
They don't practice, and then I'm like, and that's why you're sitting in the back, behind the curtain, where no one can see you.
They make all kinds of products now. Like, this stuff did not exist when we were going through school and learning this stuff.
Southweststrings.com. That's a good, I think it's SWS or SWstrings.com. I don't know the exact, bad, you know, you can use that.
Southwest Strings, Char, all sorts of stuff like that. You know, and you kind of start to get a little creative as you move into this. You find different things. Oh, I never thought of that. And then the next year you start to use it as you go. So it's a lot of trial and error when it comes to what's going to work for you in terms of introducing the instruments and moving forward. Hopefully, maybe didn't just throw a whole lot of information at you, but maybe something to kind of get started. And like Jess said, Carolyn has both of our emails. You're more than welcome to email either of us, bug us all summer if you'd like.
I've been on maternity leave all year, so if you want to bother me, I'm like itching to go back to work right now.
Seriously, feel free to email us at any time, even if you think it's like the silliest question. If you're not sure, if we can't explain it, we'll direct you to something that will help show you exactly how to do it, so that you're able to figure it out. I'm more than happy to, if you're playing around, you're really not sure, and you want to meet, I can sit there and do a quick little 10-minute lesson with you. Say, okay, you want to learn how to do this? Here's how you're going to do it, and I'll sit with you on it. But don't be afraid to, email us, call us, whatever, ask us anything.
I'm like brainstorming on those Movement books that are really good. The blue, the green, the orange.
Solo Time for Strings.
Solo Time for Strings. Blue is book 1. Even if you don't send students to NYSSMA, the Solo Time for Strings series is a great series for NYSSMA, but even if you don't send students to NYSSMA, book 1 is very easy, and the kids get really excited when they can play it. Red is book 1, blue is book 2, green is book 3.
Red is almost all level 1, book 2 is level 1, level 2 NYSSMA, and then book 3 is, I think, 3 or 4.
So what are the 3, we're going to run into problems, what are the first 3 things you're going to see wrong, how to correct it?
You're going to see posture wrong.
Posture
and
bow hold are going to be the 2 big things that you're going to feel like you do nothing but walking around, you're pushing up the instrument, because you're going to see a lot of kids when they do this, they get lazy.
Sitting there. And then you walk to the next one, and
They're
I
always
go
going to
like
be sitting.
this.
Always sitting.
Always sitting. I'm like, if my foot can fit in between you, then you're correct. I get really into, I stand on chairs, because my kids don't listen for anything. So I have to, if I had to dress up like an idiot one day, I'd probably be chairs.
I've never done this myself, but I've actually seen future students also. This should be sitting towards the front of the chair anyway, is that they'll take the binder and lengthwise right behind them, which will keep them from leaning back into the chair. I've seen it a few times. I've never used it, but it actually is kind of effective because it puts something there anyway, so they still feel like they're sitting back, but they're not. But the big thing is keeping them towards the front of the chair so that they're not doing this. You're going to be pulling up the instrument constantly. That's all it is. I have students who I've taught privately for years, and I still, every so often, I just stop what I'm doing with them and just push them up. It just happens. Lower your wrists and the bow. Those are going to be your big things right at the beginning. If you can get those under control to start with, it should be pretty easy going from there.
That's why I start right away with it.
Any other questions?
No, that's my preference.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe for us, to be clear on, for us, with time and different levels, I like the idea of maybe starting them, because you can spend so much time in position, just to give them, throw them a bone for the first lessons, to get them to do the open defense, to kind of holding it like you were saying.
You can mix and match every, that's why how I start and how she
We always have to do a lot in a little amount of time, so.
Well, I like it because a lot of students have that separate otherwise in the neck of the instrument, so it's kind of.
Don't forget to loosen your bows.
Either way, you're always so if you're giving you
You want to? They try to loosen it.